Create with Fran Sydney. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. This is episode 132 and today we're going to have a pleasure of talking to a friend called Cindy Hubbs Longsdale, and she's coming all the way from Southern California. A really beautiful place where to be, nice and sunny. And she's going to talk to us about her journey. A journey to feel good, especially after having MS, multiple sclerosis. So we're going to welcome her to the show, and before this we're going to make a disclaimer that this is not constituting medical advice but just sharing an experience in the hope they will be giving you hope and inspiration for the future. So welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited. Cindy and I met in a breathwork forum where Chris Davis, who was my guest about a month ago, was talking about breathwork, and we talked about all the success you can have and so much you can do. And then Cindy talked about her diagnosis of MS. But let's go straight to the beginning. What was going on in your life when this happened?
So physically, I woke up one day and I had a leg that was asleep, I thought. And probably halfway through the day, maybe the end of the day, I realized, wow, my leg's still asleep. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it. Maybe I pinched a nerve, maybe I didn't know. And then, I don't know, 3 or 4 days later, I'm like, this is not right. And it started traveling all the way up to my rib cage. And I was numb from my rib cage all the way down to my toes, where I felt like I had a thick padding on me, like it wasn't even me. I didn't have any mobility issues, which was a blessing. I actually had gone to Colorado and hiked to the top of Red Rock with numb legs. But in the meantime, I was going to the doctor and trying to figure out what was going on. And I went through about 6 months of testing. And then I finally got a diagnosis after 2 or 3 MRIs, and they told me I had MS. And I was like, wait, what? Shocked. I had some previous, they linked it to a vertigo episode I had probably 2 years prior to that, which I didn't pay much attention to because we all have odd things that come and go. But all of the little symptoms I had been experiencing, the doctor kind of said, you know what, that's all kind of precursor. And I had active lesions in my spine and in my brain, had some scarring, and that's how they diagnosed me.
Wow. It must have been a really difficult time of your life, but tell me what was going on in your life at that time when you became ill. You mentioned quite a few events.
So prior to getting sick, I was going through a separation, a reconciliation that didn't work, and then hence went through a divorce, but after the divorce then went through a foreclosure on the home I was living in. I ended up going through a bankruptcy, so a lot of stress, a lot of overbreathing, a lot of not eating right. I mean, in hindsight, I look back and I think there were a lot of things that led up to what was going on with me. And I think ultimately when the stress kind of died down and I got through everything else, then my body went, hello, pay attention to me.
Yes.
That's what I feel like happened.
Yes. I feel like the audio has been interrupted a few times while you were talking, so I just want to make sure the audience hears. You said the word foreclosure that was cut off completely from the audio. And so that was devastating to go through all this, and just imagine the sleepless night and the stress, cortisol going high. Of course, when our cortisol goes high, the immune system goes a little bit all over the place, and things happen, it starts to attack itself. And so MS isn't just something that you just get a pill and get better, or have a vaccine and you're never going to have it. MS can be triggered by many events, which are different for every person. Some people have it after having a viral infection. Other people have it because of stress. And then the environment, the diet is not very precise because you're not thinking about your body. You're not taking that time to think about yourself and nourish yourself. And so this caused a problem in your life. What was going on because you had MS?
It's hard to pinpoint. I had the numbness and tingling for about 6 months. It finally started to subside. I had bladder control issues. I had a lot of brain fog. Luckily for me, and I'm very blessed, I didn't have any harsh symptoms. So I am blessed in that respect, but I just had the active lesions in my spine and brain that I was very concerned about. And so that scared me.
Yes. So moving on, when you realize, hey, this is going on, I got a diagnosis, did you decide, well, that's it, I'm MS, I'm going to not be walking in 10 years? They told you were going to be on a wheelchair, is that correct?
Yeah, the doctor had told me when he initially diagnosed me, he said, if you don't take care of this, you're going to be in a wheelchair in 10 years. And he had prescribed pharmaceutical intervention. It was an IV that I was going to get. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a 6-hour IV that was going to mess with my immune system. And at that time, I was the only one at work that wasn't getting sick because I had pretty good health protocols, just not dialed into the right thing. Yeah. So you were healthy. So did you feel good about taking this IV? I didn't take it. I actually, after I got the diagnosis and what he prescribed for me, I said, okay, I need some time to think about it. Luckily, my neurologist was super supportive of everything I've done. And I took a road trip and I went and talked to my family and I said, look, this is what's going on. This is what they're offering me. I don't want to do it. I had family support to say, you know what, you know your body. You do what you think's right for you. And so I declined the medical intervention. And I had always practiced yoga, but I immediately dived into a yoga teacher training, mainly to learn how to take care of myself. Never wanted to teach. I just really wanted to learn all about it. And I discovered Ayurveda. And here I am, lots of steps later. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in the end, and we're going to talk about this intervention you had, but in the end, what happened to your symptoms? So all of my symptoms have stopped. I mean, every now and then, if I go way off of what I know I should be doing, I get little tingling, I get little brain fog, and I know that I'm like, okay, you need to clean up and come back on your path. Right. So you cannot stray off the course. And for some people, there's a low threshold, as soon as they step aside 1 second, ding, and just remind you, your arthritis is back or your cancer is back. And in this case, multiple sclerosis, which is no longer a life or death thing. It depends on every person, what's the situation. And I think it's a mental capability and resilience to say, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to help my body, I'm going to take care of myself. And so tell me a little bit about Ayurveda. I know about it, but maybe my audience doesn't know. What is it? Well, I tell people Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. So it's really tapping into your own body. It's very individual. It's learning about your body and what your body needs and what you're made up of and what's lacking and how to balance that and bring everything back to nature. It's an ancient India practice. It's been around for thousands of years and life-changing for sure. How did you apply that to your life? What was your daily way of activating the Ayurveda in your life? So very much about listening to my body. What is going on and what is it needing and lots of self-care, plant-based diet, anti-inflammatory diet was huge for me. That's pretty much the path I'm on regularly, is just really focusing on anti-inflammation and taking that down. So when you talk about anti-inflammation diet, I mean, I'm a nutritionist and a herbalist, so I have my ideas, biased, on what is inflammatory. But if you go out in the world, use Google and go and find medical studies, there are so many polarly opposite views on what constitutes inflammatory foods. So some people might say
like Dr. Greger, he says that eggs are very inflammatory and you shouldn't have them, and meat is very inflammatory. Other people, they will say, no, you need your meat and your veg, even neuroscientists, and you really need them because they're going to give you all these good things, especially in the cure for autism. You look at Natasha and Cabell McBride and all the Benjamin, what was the foundation of the famous dentist? I can't remember his name now. Is it Preston? It's a Preston Foundation, and they are talking about how they heal lots of symptoms of autistic people using meat. And so when you go with lots of foods and histamines are so inflammatory, and eggplants and all the nutshell are inflammatory, so you get wind up and we can't eat anything. So how do you pick what is inflammatory for you? How do you learn to read that message? Because obviously nutrition seems to be more like it has to be personalized. It's not like one size fits all. Does it make sense? So how do you pick what works for you?
100%. And that's where the Ayurveda comes in, and getting to know your body. I do know that processed foods, refined sugar, gluten, if it's not the right gluten, because you can get gluten or wheat products that are imported and not like here in the US, we have a lot of junk on the shelves. And so it's really focusing on what your body is doing. And so with Ayurveda as well and yoga, we do a cleanse with the body about 4 times a year. That's what's meant to be done. I don't always get it done 4 times a year, but quarterly with the seasons, you're supposed to be cleansing your body. And when you go through that process, we use a broth, very limited kind of tonics, ginger, lemon, and a lot of water. And so when you reintroduce the foods, you do it very slowly, one food at a time. And you pay attention to when you're eating that food and what is it doing to my body? How am I feeling? Is it irritating my stomach? Is it irritating my skin? Is it making me feel foggy in the head? And those are the things that we need to pay attention to and be like, okay, that's going to cause a problem. I need to limit it or get rid of it. Yes.
And that takes, I think, a lot of resilience and self-discipline. Practice. Because, as a therapist also here, but, as me, everyone, we are so addicted, I can't pronounce things today, sugar and sweet. I mean, even in tomato sauce, you buy tomato sauce and ketchup and very sugar. It's everywhere. And
salty chips. Salty chips. If you pick up chips and you turn them over and they say they're salty, but it still has sugar in them.
Yeah, like, that's why? The thing. It's everywhere because if you listen to Andrew Huberman, #1 podcast guy, he says, the industry will put it there because the combination of fat, salt, and sugar makes everything so appetizing. Not only that, you will want more of that, you will want more sugar. So it's like this cycle of dopamine going up. So we have to be kind of aware that unless you're going to the farm and pick up literally the food as it grows from there, everything else is designed to entice you to have more. That's what the industry will do. We're not evil people. We're trying to sell a product and we're going to make it interesting. Now, if I give you some wholemeal bread and 20% is high fructose corn syrup, that sugary thing, that makes you, I want another soothing and calming, dopamine relieving slice. And then the bread is gonna, for some people, will do nothing. For other people, they might become constipated. Other might have IBS. Other might have a little belly problem, and others might start have a foggy thing, maybe yeast infection. So we are all different. It's just listening to your body, right? I see that. So guys, it isn't just that. Tell me a little bit more about your mindset. What was your framework? How were you thinking about yourself?
That's an ongoing journey forever. It's like learning. I've been practicing self-care and self-love for years, but that's still an ongoing process every day. It's like you have to always, it's work. You have to focus on, what do I want? Do I want to be sick or do I want to feel well? And then some days you don't feel well and then you beat yourself up because you ate something wrong the other day and and negative self-talk is the worst. So you really have to turn that around and be, love yourself and treat the body so that it's going to carry you through this beautiful life that we...
I know. And life is a gift. It's a gift, isn't it? When we are born healthy, we shouldn't take that for granted, because we can get these diseases and they're terrible.
I was just going to say, a lot of times we don't know. And that's where the sickness is kind of a hello, or even like skin issues. I've had eczema my whole life. That was a precursor to my disease, because that's an inflammatory action. So, but we don't know that. And I could say, well, my parents fed me the wrong stuff. Well, they didn't know either. It's all learning.
Yes. Yeah. And also the connection, the gut flora, all this stuff is very recent, although gut dysbiosis or dysbiosis, as some people say, has been mentioned in my nutrition study 15 years ago. But really science is now starting to talk about the permeability of the intestine and how things can come out that we shouldn't come out and trigger allergies and all sorts of skin complaints that you shouldn't have in normal people. You start very young and you have all this stuff. Why are you reacting? What are the toxins that are there in your body, in your emotions? And I wanted to ask you more, because you mentioned breath work as part of the things, and not a lot of people connect yoga and breath work, but was that a separate thing? How did you incorporate that in your daily self-nourishing routine?
So this has been, I'm also a breathwork instructor. I became certified about a year ago. But when I was doing yoga, breathwork was always my favorite part of it. Like, I just enjoyed how it made me feel. It's very relaxing. And I always tried to meditate, but I've never been good at it because my mind is going 80 miles an hour. But I was literally scrolling social media one day, and this free breathwork challenge popped up, and I'm a sucker for free. So I'm like, I'll try it. It's free, 5 days. Within 2 or 3 days, I signed up for 2 courses. One was a Breath Fit challenge, and then the second was a 3-week awakening journey. Fell in love, signed up for the master instructor. I don't know if you're with Soma. Chris, who you had on, is a Soma breath instructor Chris also, Davis. Which is how I'm connected to him. Are you in Soma too? Or
I am in Chris Davis group.
And you're in what?
I'm in the breathwork group of Chris Davis on Facebook. I don't know the other people, but they're all there, so we all kind of connected wider.
So Soma Breath, who I'm certified, him and me, and lots of other people, is what I found. And that brought all of the yoga and the Ayurveda. And I had written in a journal one time that I wanted to do a breathwork course and an Ayurveda course. And I set it aside and didn't pay attention to it. And then I ran across this 5-day breath challenge and am now a certified instructor. But it kind of brought everything together that I had been practicing. The yoga, the Ayurveda, the self-love, and then added this layer of breathwork and meditation that I have never experienced before. And it's been life-changing and kind of, like I said, brought everything together and really helped me grow even more. So it's been awesome. And I have had, and I didn't mention this, and I want to mention it because I purposely, when I was going through my health journey with the doctors, I had follow-up MRIs every year. I was diagnosed in 2017. Obviously 2020, I don't think I was, but I've had 2 in the last 2 years, and he looked at my MRI and said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working. I've had 0 progression.
Incredible. And did he not ask you what's your protocol so I can share it with my other patients?
You know what? He didn't. And it's interesting because when he diagnosed me, I dove into all kinds of research, and he did give me a link to somebody. I don't even remember who it was or when it was, but he had given me a link to somebody that had healed themselves holistically. I'm pretty sure he gave me a link to somebody, but I can't find that link anymore, so I don't know if it was him. He hasn't asked me specifically, but I think we kind of talked about it, and he's a medical doctor. I respect him, and I know that there's a place for doctors when we need them, but I just chose to go the other route.
Yeah, there are so many ways to to achieve healing. There isn't just one way. I might go to
Absolutely.
Donna Eden and she might tackle MS completely from an energetic point of view. I might go to the emotion code guy, Bradley Nelson. He will say, oh yeah, I can do this. So everyone has his own way. There's a quantum, there's so much we can do. So there isn't just a thing of going there, getting a pill, an injection, or whatever. Sometimes we have more options, and it's always good to have a look at what is resonating with us. And we have a few more minutes. So would you be able to share with us, with our audience who is eager, maybe there is someone here who has MS and would like to go a different route first and see what happens, so complement what they're doing with a doctor, with something. So the more holistic, what would you suggest?
So my first thing is like, get in touch with yourself. How do you feel? Diet, clean up your diet, get rid of refined and processed foods. I take some supplements specific to nerve and brain health, alpha lipoic acid. And it's interesting also because even the supplements and things that I do, sometimes I back off of them because I just want to see, are they really working? Is this really working? So I'll back off. And sure enough, symptoms will start to bubble up and I'm like, alpha lipoic acid, I stopped taking that probably November. And last, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I started having some tingling in my feet. Like I felt like I was stepping on rocks or something. And I kept looking on the ground. I'm like, oh, interesting. I started taking my alpha lipoic acid again, and immediately that tingling went away. I take a lion's mane mushroom powder in my coffee every day, and that is for nerve and brain health. I'm not a doctor, so don't do these without doing your own research and getting somebody to help you. But these are the things that I have found that have helped me. I do ginger and lemon every single morning when I get up. Before I'm allowed to have coffee, I have to finish my ginger. That's been anti-inflammatory. I was doing that before I was diagnosed. That's helped me with keeping weight off, keeping me healthy. Like I said, I'm the only one at work that was getting sick. Everybody was having colds all the time, and I'm like, I use a lot of essential oils. Those have really helped me. I've been using those again for probably 10 years, but these are all things that, like I said, I was doing, and then I've just kind of added things to help with specific nerve and brain health.
Excellent. So you've done your research and now you found things that are making you feel great. So we can only learn that it's a good attitude and can-do attitude can help more than just sit there and say, well, now I'm ill, I'm going to be ill for the rest of my life. No, I mean, it's this thing of knowing that your body is crying for help, and maybe all it needs, as in case of Dr. Walls, this very special person who had MS, and she realized, oh, I'm lacking the greens here after so much research. She started to have greens and a pound a day of greens, and she got so much better. And then when she didn't have those greens, immediately she had the symptoms returning. So she has to have that quantity of greens and those supplements. And you think, well, isn't that like the natural thing? We should be eating all these greens. And when you go to a grocery store or supermarket, maybe there'll be a 10th is the fresh food aisles, and there's never discounts on them. The discounts are always on the junk food. So you tend to go and say, oh, I don't have much money, I'm going to buy, all these processed ready meals. If it comes in a packet, you think, should that be the majority of my food or not? And I think that's the thing. We don't know what's inside it. And,
right.
We don't know what's that going to do to our cells and to the ganglia, the nerves, and the brain. We're so complex and everything interacts. And so eventually we might be saving, it might be more expensive to buy proper food and to cook from scratch. It might be more expensive. But I think when the time you're going to spend at the doctors later because obesity, inflammation, gum disease, whatever, heart attack, they can come to anyone, but more so when we're not listening to what the body wants. So, I'm so glad that you came to the show to show that it is possible to feel better. it is possible. You're right here, you're talking, you're walking. I can't see you walking, but I know you walk.
I can walk.
Yeah, guys, I can attest to this, and I promise she's walking. So yeah, our time is over. So I want to thank you so much, Cindy, for being to my show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So tell us if we can find you somewhere. Have you got a website?
So I do have a blog that I've written all about my journey and all my practices. It's under Holistic Wellness with Cindy. I'm on Cindy Hubbs Longsdale on Instagram, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel I just started as a challenge with Soma Breath. So that's been kind of fun. That's a whole new aspect of life. But yeah, everything's in my blog. So and then feel free to reach out. I love to answer any other questions if anybody has any.
That's brilliant. So everyone, you know where to go. We told you all, and I hope that you really enjoyed this episode and it gave you hope and inspiration to, maybe you don't have MS, but just to clean up the diet and clean up the toxins from your life and get rid of all these negative vibes coming in, because we have to love ourselves as well. And remember, we have a body, and they will eventually scream and say, here we go. We got fibromyalgia to wake you up. We got MS to wake you up. We got chronic fatigue. There's always something there that needs to be cleansed.
I say that a lot. I say, if your body's talking to you, you need to listen, because if you don't listen, it's going to start screaming at you.
That's the thing. They shout to you like, hey. And I do have friends that said, oh, I got fibromyalgia, and it's trying to stop me doing things, but it's not going to stop me. I have a bath first, and I take this medicine, that medicine, then I feel better, and then I go and I do all I want, and I get super tired, but I don't care. It's not going to stop me. And actually, they don't realize fibromyalgia is there because the body says, I had enough, you need to stop, and it's trying to stop you. And so the more you keep running, the more your body will give you fibromyalgia and this spasm. It's a typical personality that you want to do it all, serve everyone, help the world, but you're not helping yourself.
You have to help yourself first.
Yes. I have so many people, so many therapists that work only with fibro, because these are amazing people. They want to do it all, and they don't stop. And so fibromyalgia goes stronger and stronger until they're mobilized. And then they probably, I have to stop. Yes, I have to listen.
Give myself a rest.
Yeah, and you're not a bad person if you're not always running to help save the world. You're not a bad person. You have also to help yourself so you can help the world.
Absolutely. And I want to say too, you said something about the produce being expensive and eating healthier is expensive. I always say as well, if you think wellness is expensive, try illness.
Oh yes, especially in the States with this, the prices of going to the doctor.
Exactly.
$30,000 to have a baby. Yay, guys, I'm gonna get healthy. Well, thank you. My time is over, so thank you so much for being with me. And guys, if you like this episode, share it, subscribe, send it to somebody, click like, write a review, do something positive about it. And I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all next week. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
You've listened to Create with Franz Sidney.